Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, from Berlin, live, we are here for you with a webinar, and I am here this afternoon in Berlin with Pierre-Etienne Métais from emcra. We're happy to welcome participants this time from 17 different countries, and we felt that in times of financial challenges, not to say crisis, it's important to know requirements for successful EU fundraising and to understand the logic behind the EU funds. Therefore, we have decided to present this webinar in cooperation with emcra, who provides recommendations of how to use EU funds and for tourism projects successfully. As some of you may recall, in the year 2011, Poland was the partner country of ITB, and parts of this has been financed by EU funds, which of course required applications and a process before. For this, I have the pleasure to introduce to you today an experienced speaker, Pierre-Etienne Métais. Hello, Pierre. From emcra. He's a trainer and consultant. And emcra already held a very enlightening workshop at ITB 2012 about EU funding at our convention and offers seminars and webinars per se. So, Monsieur Métais, we're happy to have you with us today for the Academy webinar, and I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm also pleased to welcome you into this webinar where we will together try to make an overview of the funding possibility in the field of tourism. Before we enter into the presentation, I would like to inform you that this presentation will be available on the website of the ITB Academy in the course of next week. Well, as you may know, the EU supports thousands of projects every year, and the goal today is to see how exactly. The first information I can give you is that tourism actually is a cross-cutting issue. So it will be difficult to identify only one program where you will find possibility for funding, and this is also the reason why we have organized this webinar, in order to identify which programs are for you relevant. Speaking about the programs of the EU, it's also important for you to know that we will soon enter a new programming period of the EU. From the 1st of January 2014, we will no longer have the programs that we till now know, which are the programs for 2007-2013. And due to this reason, this presentation will be oriented on mainly the programs that will be introduced as from 2014, of course. Right. At the end of this presentation, after we will have this overview, we will also deliver you some tips in order to optimize your application procedure, and hopefully that you can get funds, if not this year, then in 2014 or in the year after. And eventually we will also of course, have the possibility for your question at the end. Well, I will turn from now on the camera off so that we can concentrate on the presentation. We will, of course, still hear my voice. So, like I said, as a first step, when you are about to discover the EU funding possibility, you need to have this overview of EU funding programs, and that will be the core of this presentation. Of course, in order to facilitate your comprehension of these of these programs, we will also give you some project examples. Project that has been, of course, supported in the past or recently by the EU. And at the end, like I promised, some tips and recommendations. But first of all, we need to have a few words about emcra. So emcra is the leading training and consulting company in Germany for the acquisition of European funds. Since 2002, we offer consultancy for successful EU grant application. We support our clients in the field of proposal and application writing, and we give assistance to identify funding programs like we will do now, and help to find the right project design. In addition, emcra offers professional know-how for EU project management, which means from the time your project is selected. We support our clients, for example, with financial management or project monitoring and project evaluation. And with our academy, we organize certified workshops, in-house seminars, trainings, and webinars for the acquisition of European funds. Until today, we have trained more than 450 EU fundraisers. Okay. So, first of all, you have, like I said, to identify the right program for your project. This is the first step, but there are hundreds of programs, of EU funding programs. So you have to, first of all, distinguish between four EU funding blocks that we have presented here. The question is, for example, in which country are you located? And second question is, would you like to have a project implemented locally in one region, one country, or will you implement your project with other partner organizations? Speaking. Answering of these to these two questions will already determine if your project will be either eligible or funded under the first block, the second, or the third, or the fourth. We will together now see what are exactly the differences between these four blocks. Oh, well, before that, let's see where the funds are allocated. The first block, which were the European Union funding programs, these are programs for projects led in transnational partnerships, and they are directed for EU applicants, but sometimes also neighbors. And I know that we have today attendance from European countries, but not EU countries. And very often these countries are also eligible to these European Union programs. This European Union program, so here you can see in billion euros the amount which has been allocated, a little bit more than 125. These programs are directly managed in Brussels. They are centralized, and you have to apply directly to the appropriate Directorate General of the European Commission. The second area was the structural funds. These are funds which are decentralized. They are managed by the respective EU countries, and more exactly their ministries. These funds are deemed to support the regional development of the different areas of the EU. We have another big area, as you can see. It is the common agricultural policy of the EU, which used to be a big, in terms of volume, a big European policy. It's still a big European policy, but have now a little bit less funds available. However, these funds are directly, or most of them, offered to direct payment to farmers. So there will be, for you in the field of tourism, possibility within this policy, and especially in the field of rural development, the development of the regions in Europe which are rural. And finally, we will also cover during this presentation the EU as global actor, and this area of funding, this block, is intended for non-EU countries which cooperate with the EU. And I could see also from the list that of participants that it could be relevant for you to have a look at the funding possibilities in this area. Well, let's start with the first funding block. So the so-called EU programs are characterized, like I said, by some components. First of all, they are centralized. They are managed in Brussels directly by the European Commission, and projects which are supported within these programs must be transnational, which means that you will have to gather a consortium of organizations for a period of 1 to 3 years, so in average for 2 years, in order to deliver the products, the results that you intend to fund through the EU funds. So transnationality is a key component of these EU programs. Another aspect of these EU programs are that you have to answer to a call for proposal. So you have to wait that the EU, the European Commission in particular, calls any applicant in the field of tourism, we will see that today, in order to propose your project. So this is the way you can get project funded. Let's have a look at the main initiatives of the European Commission in the field of tourism within this first block. There are, like I said, hundreds of programs. In addition, there are some initiatives. The difference between programs and initiatives is that the initiatives are not always meant to fund projects. But the lists that you can see here are actually initiatives which has funded projects in the past. They are all managed by the DG, Enterprise and Industry of the European Commission, which is the Directorate General in charge of the tourism within the European Commission. So the first initiative is Sustainable Tourism. It has been launched since 2011, and this initiative covers topics like cultural routes crossing several countries, cycling paths, ecotourism, sport tourism, eno-gastronomic tourism, health and well-being tourism, as well as protecting natural sites, nature tourism, religious tourism, agro-tourism, rural tourism, and so on and so forth, including, for example, maritime and subaquatic cultural heritage. So all of these topics are including within these initiatives of the DG Enterprise and Industry. Like I said, in order to apply to the funds, you have to propose a project answering the priorities of the EU, but in transnational cooperation. The last call, so the first call was in 2011, and the last call was this year, 2013. The results are not yet known, but I can tell you that in 2011, 5 projects have been selected, and in 2012, 7 projects have been selected. You can find, of course, more information in the link, which is indicated below. In 2013, you had to be at least 4 partners from 4 different EU countries in order to apply. And the maximum EU contribution that you could get per project was 250,000 euros. Another initiative was Calypso. Calypso is an initiative for a low-season tourism, but in the same time to help disadvantaged people go on holiday. These initiatives, EU initiatives, exist since 2010 and seek to support, like I said, 4 groups. The first one are the underprivileged young adults aged from 18 to 30, but also the families facing financial and other pressures, people with disabilities, and finally the over 65s and pensioners who cannot afford travel or are daunted by the challenges of organizing a journey. These target groups are all the target groups of the Calypso program or initiatives, and I can give you an example of project which has been funded in the past. This is FET for First European Travel Experience, which has gathered 4 partners, 4 organizations from Belgium, Sweden, Finland, and Germany. These organizations were mainly tourism agencies, with the objective to give young people with limited travel experiences the possibility to visit one of these partner countries, overcoming attitude barriers, as well as strengthening intercultural communication and personal development. The grant, which has been allocated to this project, amounted 135,000 euros. Sorry. The other initiatives will not all of them be detailed today, but of course you can have a look at them on the website, which is indicated below. Just a short explanation to Senior Tourism Initiative. This is a new initiative since 2012, and a call for proposal has been published in 2013 for new project, which of course focus on senior as target groups, and also required to have a consortium of public and private organizations in order to be applied to be eligible. The maximum contribution per project for this call was 340,000 euros. Right. Regarding cycling routes, the EDEN initiative, Accessible Tourism, Low Season Tourism Initiative, European Quality Label and Cultural Tourism, I invite you to have a look on the website directly and see what kind of project has been funded in the past and which call has been published recently. I'm moving forward with other EU programs which are centralized, which are managed by other DGs of the European Commission. And here is an overview of 5 programs which are not directly entitled for tourism, but which could be indirectly interesting for you. COSME will be the program for the competitiveness of SMEs and enterprises, and with focus on tourism. So the EU will invite these specific groups, so enterprises and SMEs, but also associations like Chambers of Commerce who support this development, and why not in the field of tourism, to get funds in order to promote their development. LIFE is the EU program for the environment, and most, if not a majority of the project, of course, have an impact of the tourism project, have an impact on the environment. And through these programs, you may also access EU funding. Erasmus Plus is the program of the EU, will be the program of the EU from the 1st of January for education, all kind of education, starting from school education till adult education and vocational education, but also universities, so high school higher education. In the past, Erasmus Plus has supported projects, of course, in the field of tourism. This is an example. This project was called Women Entrepreneurs in Rural Tourism, WERT, WERT, and this project aimed at to build the competencies of existing and new women entrepreneurs involved in rural tourism and crafts. The project sought to build on the European Rural Tourism Development Training Package and has helped these women to enlarge their skills, their competencies. The partners were organizations from many countries of the EU, Estonia, Finland, Cyprus, Greece, Spain, UK, and Belgium. In my list, there is two other examples of EU programs. Creative Europe is the program for culture, European culture, and you may also have a relevance within your field of activities to link culture and tourism. So you may also apply to this program if relevant. And the last one, Horizon 2020, will be the program for research and development. This is the biggest program in terms of volume of the EU, biggest centralized program, of course, and also research project could be led in the field of tourism. So this was my first block, and as a summary, I would like to say that countries of the EU are eligible for these EU programs, but also partner countries. If you have specific questions regarding this eligibility, I invite you to write them per chat, and I can take them after this presentation. The second field, the EU structural funds, are, like I said, national funds, decentralized funds, which are still EU funding, but locally managed by the ministries, the respective ministries in their EU. In order to test your eligibility to structural funds, first of all, you have to check if you are an EU country or not, and then try to find out in which regions you are. The EU will have for the future, for the period 2014-2020, 3 categories of regions that you can see here. The least developed regions, the so-called convergence region, but also the most developed regions, which are called competitiveness region, and there will be a new category in the middle, region in transition. You can see here the map. In red, dark red, you can see the countries or the regions which will be, including here and also Portugal, covered by this first category, the least developed region. The competitiveness region, the most developed regions, are in light red. So here Scandinavia, the western part of Germany, Austria, northern of Italy, France, and northern of Spain. And transition regions, they are a little bit everywhere, as you can see, mainly France, Spain, Belgium, and Eastern Germany. Right, this is important for you, of course, to locate your region, because from your region will depend the funds that you can get and the programs that are available there. I can just give you an overview of the countries which are supposed to get the most money, or the most structural funds in the next period. Poland will be the biggest beneficiary of structural funds, with in billion euros, 72 billion euros for the whole period. And after that, you have a group of countries which include, for example, Spain, Italy, Hungary, Portugal, and Romania, which will get each roughly 20 billion euros. Germany will get 17 billion euros for the whole period. I can see that we have some partners of everywhere in Europe. Latvia will get a little bit more than 4 billion euros. Lithuania 6. Malta, it's in million, so it will be 681 million euros, and Austria 1 billion, and so on and so forth. So you have to identify first your region, and bearing in mind that regions which are classified as border region or transnational area could also be eligible to additional programs, the so-called Indirect programs. You have here an overview of the regions in green, which were until now eligible under these programs. For projects which are led in a transnational approach with partner alongside the borders. I have for you an example just after this slide. I would like first of all to say that the priorities of the structural funds for the next period there will be 7 priorities. None of these priorities is tourism, but like I said, tourism is a cross-cutting issue. And you can find a little bit of impact on tourism in every priority. So for you, tourism actors, it is a justification to apply. I'll give you an example. One of the priorities of the structural funds in the EU will be to invest in infrastructure providing basic services to citizens in the area of energy, environment, transport, and information and communication technologies, ICT. Well, if you intend to develop an e-commerce service, then it is fully eligible because it is compliant with these priorities to develop services in the field of ICT. I give you another example. One of the 7th priority is to promote social inclusion and combating poverty, including support for social enterprises. If you intend to train people in the field of tourism, so the new workers, students coming to the field, and adult vocational students, they are also eligible to structural funds measure projects because it contributes to this priority. The whole range of priority will be available per link after, in the presentation that will be available on the website. So basically, you have lots of possibility. I give you 2 examples of projects which has been supported in the past. The first one in Germany, in a so-called most developed region, because it was Berlin. Berlin, one district of Berlin, which is not very famous for tourism, Berlin-Marzahn, has obtained EU funds in order to maximize their visibility and more especially to develop a touristic concept in order to differentiate their offer from the rest of the city. So to market their assets. The result is a website, but not only. You can see here on the photos that it has also led to an office where people can get information. Another example, this time in a least developed region in Czech Republic. So this is another very different example. The spa resort Sans Souci is one of the biggest spa complex. It is located precisely in Karlovy Vary, in case you're interested. For that, it was opened in spring 2009 after a grant reconstruction, which has been supported by the EU. Grant reconstruction of the hotel and the spa. The complex offers now comfortable accommodations of 4-star category in more than 300 rooms and suites. Basically, this spa has been also awarded the Czech Republic's leading spa resort, 2010, 2011, and 2012, as a result. This is a third example in a border region. This border region was between Italy and Austria, so the so-called Tyrol region. And the two regions, the East Tyrol and the Upper Pustertal region, or valley, and the provinces of Belluno and Vicenza have jointly applied for funding for projects in order to promote the exceptional natural heritage of the Dolomites, and through especially the development of bike tourism. Well, this was a brief overview of the possibility in the field of structural funds. There are, of course, lots of possibilities, because this is, as you could see, one of the biggest funding block of the EU. Another big funding block is the Common Agricultural Policy. And like I said in my introduction, this is not only a block where the farmers can get direct payment. This is also a block where various projects, has been and will be supported for the rural development. What exactly? This is written here. Through the so-called fund, European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, through this fund, you have the possibility to apply, for example, for the encouragement of economic activities, including tourism activities, through village renewal and development, but also the conservation and upgrading of the rural heritage. One example, in UK, as you can see in the map, this project has been supported by this fund, and as described by the project holder, now the Great Oak Walks, which were the aim of the project, offer scenic, self-guided UK walking holidays over rolling hills and fields and through ancient woodlands and valleys, linking some of the finest castle, houses and gardens in England. Concretely, the project has supported the development of this, of all the infrastructure needed to develop these walks, but also a guide for the tourists who want to go through the walks, map, compass, and information for the tourists. Other possibilities, of course, within this block, Common Agricultural Policy, are infrastructure projects. You can also, for example, support the construction or the renewal of cottages or other kind of accommodation offers, but in, of course, rural areas of the EU. Last but not least, we have to cover the fourth block of the funding of the EU, the so-called EU as global actor, or external aid. And which countries are eligible for this support of the EU? Basically, almost every country of the world, but with different approaches, different priorities. We can, of course, first of all, focus on the candidate countries, potential candidate countries, which are located mainly in the Balkans area of the EU, but also Turkey and Iceland. So speaking about Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, Kosovo. These countries also get a lot of support of the EU in all of the fields that you can see here. Development of new tourist products, services, infrastructure, marketing, ICT, information system, but also a more political approach, common tourism development strategy. So the scope is, again, here for these countries, these specific countries, very wide. And here you have an example of a project which has been supported in the past through the instrument for pre-accession assistance. This is the specific instrument of the EU for these countries. It was the so-called project Via Dinarica, and sorry for the accent. The partners were two of Montenegro, the Center for Sustainable Tourism Initiative, and the Ministry of Sustainable Development and Tourism of Montenegro, and the Extreme Sport Club Limit from Bosnia-Herzegovina. You can see a typical public-private partnership here. The grant of the EU has covered 85% of the cost of the project, and the objective was to enhance the tourism valorization and rural development of the transboundary region between Montenegro and Bosnia, economic diversification and revitalization, as well as social cohesion in the communities along the initial Via Dinarica route. So, of course, there is a geographical component in this project. The project was twofold. The objective was twofold. On one side, to develop a hiking route with capacities and services, but on the other side, to develop to revitalize the local agricultural chain and producers, including, for example, handmade wool socks, which were one of the targets of the project. Giving, of course, as an overall objective, giving employment and income to the local population. Well, that was all for my presentation. Of course, I could have mentioned the cooperation with other non-EU countries, including Africa, Latin America, but this can also come in the question. Before we go through the question, I would like to give you 6 tips. The first one is non-retroactivity. If you intend to apply for funding, for EU funding, please bear in mind that you cannot apply for a project which has already started yet, and for funds which have already been incurred. You have to be completely blank. The project must still be a project and not being implementing. Second is co-financing. Yeah, the EU give an impetus for a new project, but does not cover all the cost of the project. You still have to find the rest of co-financing. The rest could range from 50% to only 10%, for example. So, in average, the EU gives the majorities of the fund. It could be exceptionally less than the majority. The rest could be sponsors, could be own funds, and third partner, or of course, the consortium. Top-down approach. I have mentioned it at the very beginning of this presentation. Your project must fall within a program of the EU, and you have to wait for the call for proposal to apply. This is particularly the case for the so-called EU programs, the first block, and the external aid, the last block. For the structural funds and the rural development, you may have to apply. You may apply on a continuous basis, which means that there is no call, or there is a continuous call, which is always open. Transnationality, this is again one characteristic of the first block, EU programs, the last block as well, the external aid. Concerning the structural funds, it depends if it's in the border region or not. If yes, then you have to have a transnationality component in the project. Otherwise, the rest of the structural funds project does not require a transnational consortium. this centralized or decentralized procedure, this is again one of the big difference between, for example, the structural funds, which are decentralized, and the EU programs, which are centralized in Brussels. And innovation, your project must propose something new. If you replicate something which has been already done in the past, there is few chance for a project to be selected, unfortunately. The EU expects always that you propose a kind of added value compared to what has been done in the past. So a new route, a new cycling route, or a new target groups, which has industry, which has not been covered, for example. Well, before we close this presentation, I have received from you a list of questions, and I'm happy with that, of course. The first one is, are applicants from Switzerland also eligible to EU funds? Yes, of course, but not in all. Speaking about these countries which are European but not EU countries, I include also Iceland, also the Balkan countries to some extent. They are eligible to some of the EU programs, to some of the structural funds, here especially the Indirect cross-border program, but also to external aid. Are individual persons also eligible? No. It must be organizations with legal status which apply to EU funding. Where can I find information about EU funds? Well, basically we can invite you to write us to the email that you can see here. We will provide you some information. Otherwise, you can still go, of course, on the website of the European Commission and select the appropriate Directorate General, DG, in your field of activity. There is, like I said, no DG in the field of tourism. It is a cross-cutting issue, so you have to select either the DG for education, for environment, for enterprises, for regional development, and so on and so forth. How can I apply for EU funds? What are the first steps? Well, the first step was to have this overview and to identify in which block you would like to apply. I guess now you have understood the approach which is required in one of each of these blocks. The next step will be to identify the program. Unfortunately, in so short time, I could not give you an overview of all the programs. We can help, of course, identify the programs. As a next step, after you have identified the programs, you have to wait for the call, download the application form, which is always available on the internet, and then apply. Can I check what the EU funded, what the EU has funded in the past year? Yes, of course you can do that. The EU is one of the most transparent donors of the world, and every web page of every program has normally a so-called list of selected projects, list of funded projects, normally classified per year, and accessible on the internet. If you do not want to look at specifically at a program, I can advise you a link, which is the Financial Transparency System, FTS, which is available on the web page of the European Commission. We give you a link. We will give you the link. Financial Transparency System, if you want to Google that. When will full funding be available for Croatia, apart from the IPA? Oh, this is a good question. Theoretically, as the 1st of January 2014, all the new programs which will be implemented will be fully open to Croatia, because Croatia is a new member state. So there must be no opt-in or opt-out rule regarding Croatia anymore. It should be fully eligible apart from IPA as from 2014. Which funds will be eligible for Serbia in the next 2 years? Still, in the next 2 years, but still for the next 7 years, this instrument for pre-accession assistance, so one of the last funds that we've seen together. This fund is actually a preparation for the structural fund. So what you can fund in Serbia is quite similar to what we've seen together in the second block, structural funds. It's quite similar with some different rules, but of course you will have same possibilities, including cross-border approach, so Serbia with its neighbor. Do you see the well-defined place of tourism in transnational cooperation programs? Do you see the well-defined place of tourism? I would propose to reformulate the question because I do not get exactly the meaning of the well-defined place. Is there a pool for potential partners or region actors seeking partners? Oh, good question. Actually, the EU tried to answer these needs of the applicants every year a little bit better. But it still depends, of course, of the programs. You do not have a meta pool for all applicants in all blocks, in all programs. This does not exist. You have to approach, first of all, the programs that you want to apply for, and then, case by case, you may find there a platform for applicants or for networking with other applicants. What I can also recommend is to attend the info days, which are regularly organized by the European Commission, because there you will have the possibility to meet other potential applicants. And one last recommendation, the social networks, which are not EU, of course, oriented, but professional social networks like LinkedIn has hundreds of networks where you can gather with other applicants. I've covered all these questions, meaning the themes of tourism is not quite visible in the transnational cooperation program. Okay, in the first block, actually, you're right, there was no program for tourism. There was only initiatives. This could be explained by the fact that tourism is quite a new topic within the set of EU policies. And like sport is quite new. But if you take the example of sport has started with a kind of also a list of initiatives, then pilot project has been supported, and then as from 2014, there is a comprehensive program for sport. For tourism, this is approximately the same development. You have first some initiatives, a quite long list of initiatives, but not yet a full integrated tourism program. The EU has tried to put tourism as a priority of the COSME program, so the programs which for SMEs and enterprise, but it's still not a program for tourism. So still, for the period 2014-2020, you will have to think cross-cutting. You will have to think transversally, I'm afraid, if you work in the field of tourism. Let's see if from the next period, let's say up from 2021, the EU will propose a full integrated program. I hope so. Okay, thank you for your question. Thank you for your attendance. This is now the end of the question and answer. So you can still, of course, contact us, contact emcra and contact the ITB Academy to the email that you can see here. I will switch again the camera on. In fact, I'm here again. And invite you to contact us anytime. As I can say, the presentation will be available during the next week on the website of the ITB Academy. Thank you for your attention. Danke für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit und Merci pour votre attention.